Last time I played this game, I was really excited to play it, and I was so excited that I didn't bother trying to explain it properly because I just wanted to get to the game. So I'm going to attempt again to explain it to you guys in a clear way that I think most people should be able to understand. Let me start off with the basics. The object of the game is to capture any one of your opponent's kings, whether that's in the present, the past, or another dimension. And the past and another dimension thing, don't really think about that for now. Just think about capturing any one of your opponent's kings. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through each of the pieces individually and show you guys how they move. Let's start with the rook. I showed this one last time, but I want to explain it further. The rook can move in exactly one direction. It cannot move in more than one direction. It can only move in one direction at a time. In normal chess, those directions are moving horizontal and moving vertical, like so. However, this game introduces more directions, hence the name 5-dimension. Dimensions might as well be considered to be directions. What you have to do is you have to consider time as a direction. Don't think of it like, going back into past as like some weird movie shit where you change the past. Just think of moving into the past as moving as a direction. So let me show you how this direction works. The solution to this puzzle involves taking the rook and moving to here, because what happens is that the rook moves in the direction of the past. So there's a history view that might actually show this more clearly. Here is what one move into the past looks like. When the rook moves from here, this square, to this square, this is a directional move into the past. And it wins. I wish the arrow would stay here, but the reason we win is because the rook will move uninterrupted 3 moves into the past to snipe this king. And kings in the past, and not just kings, any pieces that are in the past, black cannot move. Once it's in the past, it is done. I hope that at least clears up the past direction for you guys. Let's do another puzzle so I can show you guys another way to win. There's a mate 2 puzzle with a rook right here. And the first move, it's kind of important, but there's not much explaining. We're just putting the king in check, and we're forcing the king to move in the past. So before I explain the checkmate, I just want to explain the king's move. The king can move exactly 1 square, but in as many directions as it likes. So in normal chess, it could move 1 direction vertical, it could move 1 direction vertical and horizontal, and now in this game, it can move in any combination of that, as well as 1 direction in vertical, horizontal, and back in time at the same time. So in this example, the king is moving exactly once back in time. It's not even moving up and down. It's actually a very single directional move. All the king is doing is moving from this square to this square, once back in time. We're going to actually reset the puzzle just so you guys can watch the king move again. Watch as the king moves exactly 1 move into the past direction without moving up and down. So the king does that. So now what I want to introduce is another way to win. The previous way to win was just attacking a king in the past, but there's also this thing where you can do where if you manage to pin 2 kings, your opponent cannot move both of them out of the way. The opponent can only make 1 move on this board. So if he tries to move this king, well, then I take his other king and he's screwed. So if I pinned 2 kings like this, it is lights out. Did the king not move 2 in the past? No, so I want to explain why. Each of the boards have an outline to them. This board has a white outline to signal that it's my move, and this board has a black outline to signal that it's black's move. A move from black to black is considered to be 1 space. This whole grouping of a white and black board is 1 space. So hope that clears things up. So now I think we understand the rook and at least somewhat understand the king, but the king will be working towards in the future. Let's now go to the knight. The knight, the way the knight moves, people think about it as an L shape, but you have to kind of forget about the L shape. Even though it technically still moves in an L right now, you're not going to visually see it as an L in 5-dimensional chess. How you have to think about the knight moving is that the knight will always move 2 spaces in 1 direction and 1 space in another direction. In chess, normal chess, that would always just look like this: 2 up, 1 to the side, and obviously that's not the solution, but that's what it would look like. In this game, you can have any combination of the directions that the knight decides to move. In this puzzle, the direction that the knight moves is 2 spaces forward and 1 direction into the past. So 2 forward, 1 into the past, following the knight's rules. That's really all there is to the knight. Next up is the bishop. I think most people got tripped up on the bishop because they see bishops as light squared bishops and dark squared bishops. once again, the way that the bishop moves in this game is that it can move in exactly 2 directions, the same amount of squares. So a bishop can move in 2 directions by 1 square, by 2 squares, by 3 squares, you know, as long as they can. On a normal chessboard, that was always going to manifest itself as an obvious diagonal, and that's why it's usually attached to a color, but you have to let go of bishops being light squared or dark squared. You just have to think about them as bishops. So in a normal chess game, this is what a normal bishop move would look like. It's not a diagonal, it's 1 to the horizontal and 1 vertical. So here, what you would do is move the bishop here, because the checkmate that happens is a bishop is moving 1 square vertical and 1 square into the past. It moves exactly 2 directions, the same amount of squares. You cannot really think of this as time travel, you just have to think of moving into the past as moving into a direction. Next, we got the queen. So if you've seen the other pieces, the queen might start making a bit more sense. The queen can move in any amount of directions as long as it's the same amount of moves. On a chessboard, again, it can look something like this, where the queen will move 2 moves into, you know, left and 2 moves up. And you could have 2 moves left, 2 moves up, and 2 moves into the past at the same time. This might get complicated to people that try to think of this like a puzzle. You cannot think of a real game of 5D chess as a puzzle because there's so many combinations of moves. You're simply not going to keep track of them all. You cannot instantly be good at this game by just analyzing the position. You have to get better by playing the game, and then over time you'll recognize patterns and see better moves with that. I actually don't even remember how this one was done, but you can see actually in green all the possible moves the queen can do. So if I wanted to checkmate the king here, I think what I would do is I would move the queen here, because what it does is it allows the queen to move 2 to the right, 2 to the up, or 2 vertical, and 2 into the past to take the king. And once again, past pieces cannot be moved. The game is more fun the less you think about it. Despite this being a big brain game, the way to get better is to not think at all. You just make moves. And we haven't even gotten into the next dimension, which is parallel dimensions. Let's see if there's a good puzzle that will explain it, because you have to think about parallel dimensions in exactly the same way that you think about moving into the past. Moving into a parallel dimension is merely a direction, just like moving horizontal, just like moving vertical, and just like moving into the past. Let's say, hypothetically, we have a rook here. I won't be solving this puzzle, but what you can do with this rook is move between dimensions. Each horizontal line is a new dimension, and is also another direction, just like moving in the past. So again, rooks can only move in exactly one direction, and that direction can happen to be forward through the dimension sphere, or into another dimension. So if I happen to move my rook here, the rook is... This animation does not help, but it's very cool. What it does is it just simply moves in that one direction, and that one direction is 3 dimensions. Why is there 3? Yes, so because I took a piece and I moved it into a board that had already moved. What has to happen, according to the dev, is that a new timeline has to split. We cannot just have the rook be on this board and move into here, because this stuff already happened. So we're creating a parallel dimension, and this is like the science fiction sort of stuff that you just have to go along with, basically. It just creates a new dimension which has a whole new possibilities of moves. Now, notice that each of these boards have different color arrows coming out of them. You only are required to make moves on the board with a purple arrow. The arrows that are white and black are optional, so there are some dimensions that you can just leave. Purple arrows are mandatory, non-purple arrows are optional. I'm gonna do one practice game against the computer just so we can further solidify it, then I'm gonna play against you guys. So let's do a CPU match, let's random, let's do a aggressive AI, and let's go. Not gonna do it on a full board. I'm gonna be honest. Let's do it on a small board. It makes it easy to understand, and in my honest opinion, small board just makes for a more enjoyable game. Because there is a thing as too much going on where it just becomes unfun, a 5x5 board is perfect in that it is just enough. It is just enough complication, and it's not overly complicated. Now, I'm setting up a checkmate in the past, but I have to take my time on this. So here's how this is going to go. I'm going to take his pawn here. Just abiding my time. I think I can do it now. I think we've made... So, there we go. I've moved my queen here, and the queen is moving 3 up and 3 into the past. This is a very common opening trap, and I'm glad I got to show this, because this is the scholar's mate of 5D chess. He is also checking his king, but the real checkmate is me taking his king in the past that he can do absolutely nothing about.
But I still don't know how to have good strategy and understand what are
Don't even
good moves.
think about strategy. Do not even think about strategy. Just think about making moves, and then after you make the move, decide for yourself whether that move was good or not. You learn this game by the same way you learn chess. You grind out games. Nobody is instantly a god at chess. People become good at chess by playing a bunch of games, recognizing positions, and maybe training in a way so that they can capitalize on the positions that they've recognized in the future. You have to just make moves for now. So, with that in mind, let's play some games. Let's have a good time. Let's do a little custom match. I'm gonna do a small board. Just create a public match. Whoever wants to join can. Let's have some fun playing some chess. So, you decided to push the pawn in front of the knight. Let's develop some of our own pawns, take some of his stuff.
Can you move across timelines?
You can. You have to think of a timeline move as a direction. If you're moving up one timeline, that is one move in the positive timeline direction. Of course, you can only make the moves as long as there's an uninterrupted path. If there happens to be a piece blocking your path, you can't make that move, just like normal chess.
Explain how the weird dragon and
Nope.
unicorn pieces in some
Nope.
variants are
Nope.
actually useful? I
They're-
never use them properly.
Nope. There's some pieces specific to 5D chess that I'm not going to even think about. I'm not even going to talk about them at all. En passant, bitch. So, we're just playing with the normal pieces. Oh, he's got the moves. He wants to set up some sort of mate. Hold on. I'm going to push my pawn because I cannot let him get in front of my king. Or I cannot let him open this file to mate me. I should do more 8x8 games that are actually much more fun. You know what? I'll try a couple eventually, but the one time I played an 8x8 game, it was so long. The reason why I like 5x5 is that, especially when people decide to overthink things, even when that happens, it's going to be 15 minutes max, where an 8x8 game can just go on and on and on, and it really drags at times, especially when it's new. I really think it's best that we all get better at 5x5 and then eventually go to 8x8. Yeah. Nice bishop take. I'm going to take that back. Thank you very much. Ooh. He's got the pawn check. I'm a little bit annoyed, actually. I think I want to take his pawn. I shouldn't think about it too much. We'll see if it's right. I blew Hikaru's mind just 5 minutes ago. Listen, the reason why I made the previous video was just because I wanted to fuck with you guys. I actually enjoyed this game quite a bit, but I wanted to present it in a way that was just mind-fucky. I didn't expect it to be like the instant first search result. I think this is mate. The instant first search result on the 5D chess YouTube search, but it ended up being that. I think this is mate. Let me see. Yep. We're good. So, once again, the queen is moving 3 directions horizontal, 3 directions vertical, and 3 into the past. He's had this diagonal open for God knows how long. I was gonna eventually get my queen there. It just took a bit to set up. Are people playing beyond the initial gimmick? I mean, it's actually fun. Like, no joke. It's actually pretty fun. Could I have done with this with the bishop? No. And I fell for this before, but again, a bishop can only move in exactly 2 directions. If a bishop was where the queen was, all that would be happening was that I'd be putting him in check, because it takes 2 directional moves to get to this king, which is at a diagonal. I would need the bishop to be able to move in 3 directions in order to hit this king. So the queen needed to be the piece that does it, and that's mate. All right, I'll do a couple more of these, then maybe I'll try an 8x8. Queen is super powerful. Can move in, you know, a total of 4 directions at once. Let go. You can't block a check in the past. No, the only way to prevent a check in the past is to take the piece that is checking. So you have to almost set yourself up ahead of time so that you can take the piece that is making the check. So unfortunately, I can't take that pawn. That's fine. Let's push a pawn of my own. I actually kind of regret this move the more I think about it, but it's fine. The main way to counter a check in the past is to create a mandatory timeline further back in the game, giving you time to set up to take the piece, putting you in check. Yeah, that can happen. It's not that easy, though. Is he checking me in the past? No, he's not, because it moves diagonal. All right, well, I think I block. I'm just not sure how I want to block. I think I block with the bishop. This seems like the best thing I can do. If he takes, then so be it. I don't really care. I gotta be careful, I think. Yeah, I gotta be careful. Would this have been mate? Here, then here, and then... No, it would not have been mate. I think this is mate, though. I believe this is mate. Let's see if I'm right. Okay, We're getting better at that. Again, a similar move with the queen. We're noticing a pattern. The queen stuff's powerful. You got to watch out for this kind of open line, especially if it's been going on for multiple turns. Because once again, we got a 3 space move queen to the forward and into the past. Creating a new timeline is being a coward. I mean, in a way, a little bit. If you are winning, you do not want to create more timelines. You want to keep this on the main timeline. So you can set up stuff like this.